Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 7th and final webinar of this series developed under the VNAMA project through a partnership between GIZ and ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, with the financial support of the German federal government. Today's webinar theme is Vertically Integrated NAMAs, Policy Recommendations, Case Studies and Tools for the Integration of Subnational Actors in National Mitigation Actions. So a warm welcome to all of you. Let's continue to the agenda for this session. My name is Marques. I will be the moderator of today's webinar. I am a senior officer for low emission urban development at the Bonn Center for Local Climate Action and Reporting, located at the ICLEI World Secretariat in Bonn. Today the key speaker will be Tobias Zeller from GIZ. He will give us a brief introduction to the VNAMA project, an overview of the policy recommendations for successful vertical integration of NAMAs, and finally present 2 VNAMA project case studies from South Africa and Indonesia respectively. After his presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers, for which we very much welcome your active participation. But before we move forward to the presentation, let me hand over briefly to my colleague, Louisa Weiss. She will give you some technical guidance so that you can make the best of this session. Louisa?
Yes. So welcome everybody to this webinar. We are happy to have you here. I will shortly explain you a quick technical details. So throughout the presentation you will be muted, you will not be able to speak. However, you can through your question function with the question mark pose us your questions that you have regarding the presentation, or alternatively you can decide to hold them for later, and during the question and answer session you can raise your hand and then interact with us, posing us your questions. Yeah, that is it from my side. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much, Louisa. I see a comment here from one of the participants saying he cannot hear anything. His name is Sergi. Could you try to assist him, please? And with this, I see that the participants are coming in, are joining. The participant number is increasing. So welcome everyone once again. Before moving to the introduction of the key speaker and to the presentation itself, I would like to launch a couple of quick polls so that we can better understand our audience today. So first, we would like to learn a little bit about the organizational background of this webinar participants. So we invite you to participate, select one of the options that you can see on the screen, and I see that some of the participants have already voted. Let's give some more time so that everybody can participate, and once that happens I will close the poll. So far we have already 80% of participants having voted. Just a few more seconds. Very good. Okay, we're almost there. I see that some participants are arriving at this moment, and we invite you to participate in this poll that is now online so that we can also learn from you about your organizational backgrounds. Okay, very good. I'm going to now close the poll. And I can tell you that 31% of the participants are from international organizations, 31% are from the private sector. So it's interesting to see the results from this poll. Let's launch a second poll because we would also like to learn from you if you have previous experience in the development of NAMA. So once again, we invite you all to participate in this poll, and let's give a few moments so that everybody can take part in this poll. Very good. Most of the participants have already voted. In any case, let's just wait a few more moments. Very good. And okay, I'm going to now close the poll, and I can tell you that the majority, 62%, have voted no. They do not have previous experience with NAMA design and implementation. So we have many newcomers to this field. 25% have voted, have indicated they have partial experience, and 15 have answered yes. 15% have experience in NAMA design and implementation. So now closing the poll, and would now move to the next slides to introduce our key speaker for today. I'm very happy to introduce Tobias Zeller. He is an advisor at GIZ since 2010 in the fields of renewable energies, cities, and climate change. He is a spatial and urban planner, and we are looking forward to hearing from him. Tobias, welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. A warm welcome to everyone here from Eschborn in Germany, from GIZ headquarters. I'm happy to be here, and I'm very happy to present you one of the final outcomes of our project, which we had run the last almost 3 years. The project was called Vertically Integrated NAMAs for the Involvement of Subnational Actors in National Mitigation Strategies. In other words, it was about how to involve cities and provinces in the national activities to reach voluntary mitigation targets. The project was funded by the German Ministry of Environment under its International Climate Initiative, and as you see here the dates, it ran from May 2012 and will finish by April this year. The structure was like this, with project steering and global activities like the policy recommendations, which I will present today, in GIZ headquarters, and then 2 case studies, so in 2 countries, activities on the ground, and the development of 2 vertically integrated NAMAs in Indonesia in the waste sector, so in one sector, and in South Africa in another sector, in energy efficiency in public buildings. So we had 2 countries, 2 sectors, and also 2 main questions in the project. It was, what are the success factors for vertically integrated NAMAs, and how can we actually integrate subnationals, for example, in the MRV system, so for measurement, reporting, verification, into NAMA development. And we had 2 outputs in the project. One output are bankable NAMA proposals in the 2 countries, and on global level, practical guidance to assist other countries, other actors about how to do this vertical integration. And that we do in webinars like today in our webinar series, and in a publication and recommendations. And with those recommendations, I will start now. So that was part of our guidance, and consisting of a document which we call policy recommendations, which I will refer to now, and then an overview over 6 case studies for vertical integration in national climate mitigation action. 2 of those cases, of course, our own, so in Indonesia and South Africa, and I will give you a quick glimpse today as well about those 2 cases. And then that will, as an additional document, it gives an overview over tools and instruments which can help to involve subnationals. All this publication was published in print and digital, and then we distributed just before the COP20 last December in Lima. And you can find it online under Mitigation Partnership Net. I will show the link at the end of my presentation, but you can also Google it. If you Google VNAMA, it should be the first hit, and you find it. This folder, or the whole publication, was developed by us, by GIZ, on behalf of the Ministry of Environment, the German, and with support from ICLEI and from a company called Ecofis. So, okay, let's start. But first of all, why are we talking about this urban climate mitigation actions and integration into national mitigation actions? I put here on the screen a diagram from a study which Michael Bloomberg, the special UN envoy on cities and climate change, had presented last September. And it shows on the top, the red line is the business as usual scenario for global greenhouse gas emissions. And below the green line, you see there's a 2-degree scenario, so that's what we have to reach. And then there's a blue line quite close to the red line that shows the recent national actions for mitigation. And you see there exists a big gap between this recent national actions and the 2-degree scenario. And then you see this yellow field, and this yellow field shows the urban abatement potential. That means the potential that cities actually have to contribute to reach the 2-degree scenario and to close this ambition gap, which is seen here. And this urban abatement potential refers to urban actions in the sectors of waste, buildings, and transport. But now the question is how can you use this urban abatement potential and integrate it in the whole international climate mitigation regime? And one option for that is the vertical integration and into NAMAs. And since we have seen not the bigger share of today's participants hasn't so far made experience with NAMA development, I will quickly define or tell what we understand by that, and also by vertical integration. So the vertical integration is the coordination and collaboration between different levels or spheres of government. The term spheres of government comes actually from South Africa, where they said levels shows how to say shows hierarchies too much, so we better speak about spheres. And so the national government, the provinces, and the municipalities are somehow all on the same level but working together. That is what we call vertical integration. And NAMAs is an abbreviation for National Appropriate Mitigation Action, and they define policies or actions of developing countries to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and to contribute to national mitigation targets. That just in brief. So, but as you can imagine, there are many challenges and barriers on the way of integrating subnational in national mitigation actions and the development of such actions. And in the last years, we identified the main areas of barriers and challenges, and those areas are, as you can see here, weak engagement of subnationals of cities and provinces, for example, due to the lack of knowledge and information on local level on climate change in general, but also, for example, as access to climate finance in particular. Besides the weak engagement, there's also a lack of motivation, and that results, for example, from the fact that there's no mandates on local level to actually work on climate change mitigation, and there's few incentives for municipalities to get active. And there's a lack of resources and capacity on local level a lot of times, and that, for example, the field of finances, what I mentioned already, but also human capacity, like the number of staff, for example, that the municipality can have and afford might not be enough to have someone that is specialized on climate change issues, and the lack of data access. So how to overcome these barriers and challenges? And it's how to say, it's not very surprising that against weak engagement you should help to engage, against the lack of motivation you should support for motivation, and against the lack of resource and capacity you should help to enable. And on the following slides I will go more into detail about those recommendations that we give also in our publication. So coming to the area of engage and engagement. Engagement means that subnationals together with national governments work together with national governments and establish and strengthen dialogue. I think this is a very important point. And in our publication, I won't go into details now, we also give some recommendation how to do that. For example, to manage expectations. That it's somehow a long way of developing a NAMA where the municipalities, for example, have to provide data, have to provide staff, have to provide information, and have to wait until they actually get. So this is something you have to keep in mind when you try to engage subnational governments in the design of NAMAs. Maybe some more words about the last recommendation on this slide, align NAMAs with existing national and subnational processes. In my opinion, this is the most important one on this slide, and it says, see, NAMA development is not something new and not an additional burden, but it can help you to solve existing problems that you have already. And in that way, also the NAMA should be designed to not open a totally new field of action, but to work on the existing problems and the existing tasks city government has. On the next slide, motivation. The first recommendation goes basically in the same direction as the one before, but it enhances it a bit. It's not only about alignment of existing problems or challenges on the subnational level, but also to think about how can you create with a NAMA additional new benefits for subnational actors. And that is, for example, to provide a prospect on economic growth in the area of buildings. So if you have a buildings NAMA and there's a lot of renovation and things going on that supports the local economy, or think about better air quality in the transport sector. If you improve or if you lower the emissions, greenhouse gas emissions of the local transport system, then you also lower the air pollution in the city. Or think about higher resilience, for example, also in the area of waste management. I put there under the first recommendation, the last dot, there's written stakeholder mapping. To do so, it's important to think about who are your stakeholders and what are their agendas and how can you address those agendas. These first four recommendations we had given, they also focus on the work of development organizations or supporting NGOs that help countries or cities to get involved in NAMAs. While the next ones, this number 5, 6, 7, then really go more into detail for the national governments, because national governments, if they want that subnationals are integrated, they should, in our opinion, give mandates and powers to subnationals for them to be able to act. They should provide targets and regulation as another form of motivation, and of course they should create financial incentives so that the subnational governments also get interested and motivated to be involved in the NAMA development and later in the implementation by financial reasons. And here, for example, grants should always be the first step, and later, if the system is established, also performance-based incentives where money is only paid depending on how well the promised services or whatever are delivered are being paid. Coming to the enable slide and area of activities, the first point is sufficient funding conditions for subnational governments for implementations, and I think here the very important term is conditions, because we experience that in many countries exist actually funding mechanisms where the national government funds mitigation action basically on a subnational level, but we also experience that a lot of times those funds are not used by the subnationals, and the problem is not that there is no money available. The problem is that there's a lack of capacity on both sides, lack of capacity on subnational level on how to access those funds, and the lack of capacity on the national level to provide advice and help, support to the subnationals how to access those funds. Exchange, maybe coming to the last recommendation, exchange among subnationals is also very important. So to learn about positive and negative experiences between different subnational actors, and as you see, this between different subnational actors means vertical integration, as we understand, also always leads to horizontal to an improved or enhanced horizontal communication between cities in that case, but also as we experienced in our cases on national level, then between different departments, for example, or ministries, let's say the Ministry of Environmental Affairs, or then public works, which are responsible for waste management or for public buildings in that case. So yeah, this was a quick overview over the recommendations, and which you can read more into detail in our publication. But just giving a quick overview or a conclusion about them. So there's a big potential for vertically integrated climate actions, because subnationals, as we saw on this first diagram from the Bloomberg study, there's an important role of the subnational governments to fill the gap and to help to reach the 2-degree target. And there's also growing emphasis on vertical integrated climate action. There's international programs coming up, like a program about sustainable cities in the Green Environmental Facility, for example. There's a lot of discussions on this during the international climate change negotiations and new initiatives. However, we also want to say and mention here, vertical integration is not necessarily always the way you have to go there. There might be sectors or projects where the complexity that vertical integration brings then overweigh, so the negative impacts of the bigger complexity overweights the benefits, and so consider it pragmatically. The conclusions are engaging, motivating, enabling are key aspects for successful vertically integrated climate action, which is sensitive to local needs, priorities, and capacity. And we think if you do vertical integration, there is a big potential to increase the transformative capacity and impact of NAMAs, and you will reach increased mitigation results and other sustainable development benefits. And before I come to a glimpse into our case studies, I would hand over quickly to Anna for another set of polls and questions.
Thank you very much, Tobias. So I would invite our webinar participants to answer a third poll today, because we would also like to learn from you what are the sectors you are focusing on. So let's give a few moments so that everyone can answer to this poll, and actually I can tell you that multiple answers are possible in this particular question. So I see that that more than half of the participants has already voted. Let's just wait a few more moments. Okay. Very good, and I will now close the poll and share the results with you. So you can see that The sector distribution is fairly equitative, with predominance on the buildings and waste sectors. Transport and urban planning are also fairly well represented, and other sectors non-specified. Very good. Let me now launch one last poll. We would also like to learn from you what is your regional focus area. So let's once again give a few moments so that all the participants can take part in this poll as well. And we thank you for your participation. Most of the participants have already voted, so I'm going now to close the poll and share with you the results. And you can see that the large majority of the participants in this webinar is actually focusing in Asia. But also Africa and Americas, Europe and Oceania are also represented, though to a lesser extent in this webinar. So let me hide and continue. Once again, I would hand over to Tobias.
Thank you, Anna. So yeah, coming to the case studies of the global VNAMA project, which I had introduced already before. So the two countries are Indonesia and South Africa, and well, let's see if I can focus a little bit more on Indonesia, since most of you, as I saw, came from Asia. So maybe a quick look to the NAMA proposal, so the product that we had at the end of our NAMA development process. So we have two NAMA proposals in the two countries. In Indonesia, as I said, it's the waste sector, and the name of the NAMA proposal is Vertically Integrated Municipal Solid Waste Management NAMA, or WIMSWA NAMA in abbreviation. And it was presented first on a national NAMA conference in Indonesia, and then also at the COP20 in Lima, the Indonesian government presented it to the public. But I must also say it's still in development and not yet uploaded to the UNFCCC NAMA registry or anything. The core elements are filling funding gaps for low emissions solid waste management, and develop a new grant mechanism. As we found out during the development of the NAMA proposal, there is a lot of action going on in the waste sector and on mitigation in Indonesia, but there are still gaps for an integrated system and mitigation waste management system, and this is what we somehow work on. And yeah, the objective of the whole project is mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in solid waste management sector by infrastructure investments and operations support. So were the two areas where we saw little gaps, and then also to develop a MRV system for the results, so that also other projects and actions that happen already can profit from and can feed their effects on greenhouse gas mitigation into the national system, the Indonesian government, to reach its mitigation target. In South Africa, the field of action was energy efficiency in buildings, especially in public buildings. There, the program is called Energy Efficiency in Public Buildings Program. We had submitted it to the last call of the German-British NAMA facility, which is a funding mechanism for NAMA implementation. Then the core element here is an energy efficiency fund and certain support mechanisms which should help subnationals, especially so municipalities and provinces with their public buildings, to access money for retrofitting and renovation of buildings, of existing buildings. And the objective is somehow to make use of public companies, of public energy service companies, which would provide their knowledge and also investment, and in the end to create a public buildings ESCO market in the country. And here we estimated that with the program as we developed it with this EEPPB, we could reach out to 1,000 public buildings and reach a reduction energy consumption reduction of 20 to 30% and save around 100,000 tons of CO2 equivalent per year by the end of the project. But how were these two NAMA proposals developed? If you look here and compare what is written on the left side of the screen and on the right side of the screen, it looks very similar. So we had three phases for the process: a preparation phase where we brought the stakeholders together and helped them to interact and build up trust between the different stakeholders, and then a development phase where we got the hard facts and developed the structure and strategy, and then a last phase in Indonesia called search for funding, and in South Africa also pre-implementation and search for funding. So this is still ongoing and step by step handed over also to the national governments, of course, which are involved from the beginning as well. And maybe just a few words here. Search for funding in Indonesia, we see a big ownership, as I mentioned. The NAMA proposal was already presented on several occasions from the national government, but also the subnational governments, which are very interested in working here in this project. And in South Africa also I would like to highlight the pre-implementation which we do. So the NAMA concept in total consists of different elements, and some are bigger and require a lot of budget, and others are smaller. And one of the smaller parts is to really help and go through with municipalities on how they can actually make an offer about their buildings, to create a portfolio of certain buildings in their municipality, and then show that to these private energy service companies and make them interested into investing in retrofitting and renovation of those buildings. And this is what we are doing there at the moment with two municipalities, with eThekwini, that's Durban, a bigger city, and with Graaff-Reinet, this is the smallest city or town that we're working together, and this is also ongoing at the moment and will be finalized in the next 2 months. Yeah, what are the conclusions of our two case studies? If I summarize what is written here for Indonesia, it's mainly about how to say, we found out the number of stakeholders increased a lot if you work with vertical integration. I mean, I think in every NAMA development you have a lot of stakeholders to deal with: private sector, national government, international funding organizations. But here we add another level, the subnational level, so the number of stakeholders increases, and that means also that this stakeholder management and bring them together and match them with each other, but also to support them is one of the really important factors when you do vertical integration. And in South Africa, it's also the quantity of the stakeholders, but then is also quality of cooperation is very important. So let me highlight here, for example, the second dot, that is allow time and resources for coordination and facilitating. So what we had, for example, in the beginning of the NAMA development process was really almost half a year just building up trust, bringing them together, showing what I said in the beginning with the recommendations, showing the benefits for the existing problems and how to tackle them, that the NAMA development process already, but then later also the implementation of the NAMA could help them to solve the existing problems and not being an additional burden. And so the quality of cooperation was here the important point. Okay, yeah, that was a very quick glimpse and run through the policy recommendations in general and our two case studies from Indonesia South Africa, as I said before, you find further information on the project and also this our publication in written or digital form on the website of Mitigation Partnership, or if you Google just for WINAMA. And yeah, and now I'm happy to hear your questions and to discuss with you and give you maybe more details about certain aspects of our NAMA development and recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tobias, for this very insightful presentations and including both the overview and also some of the details that you included. From my side, I would like to make a brief remark to add to some of the elements that you've mentioned, since you've referred to the importance of building trust, of building capacity. And in this regard, I can say that ICLEI, being an international association of local governments, can help the different organizations and different levels of government in this regard, because indeed we provide technical support to local governments worldwide in their path towards including low emission development in their urban planning processes and projects. And we do have several methodologies, tools and resources that the local governments can use for technical support, including further MRV processes related with greenhouse gas emissions accounting at community scale and within their local government operations. And ICLEI is also a network of local governments that provides a very good forum for exchange and peer learning. So in this regard, it's an opportunity also for cooperation and in bringing the subnational and local governments into NAMAs. So with this, I would once again like to emphasize the invitation that Tobias made. We will now open the floor for questions and comments from the audience. We invite your active participation. I'll begin by taking a look at the questions panel, giving priority to any questions or comments that have been submitted already. But in any case, just as a quick reminder, you can either introduce your questions through the questions panel, or you can raise your hand and we can unmute you so that you can verbally ask your question or make your comment. So let me take a quick look. The first question comes from Ksenia Petichenko, and she asks, what tools, methodologies were used to estimate the baseline and potential impact of the NAMA in Africa, and how MRV requirements were met? Tobias, would you like to answer?
Sure. So tools, methodologies as the first question. What we did at the very beginning was really a baseline study, which was conducted by a South African consultancy to really see which kind of data is available about buildings, especially public buildings in South Africa, and which programs exist already. What could be done in South Africa, and then what we did to actually get a baseline or to come to this 20-30% potential for reduction with easy to implement measures was a mixture of buildings assessment on one side, but also a capacity building measure on the other. So we hired engineers, building engineers, and they went through public buildings in pilot cities that we had pre-selected, together with the facility managers of those buildings directly, and made, how you call it, a walk-through audit of the building. So going through all the buildings, seeing the lighting in the building, the air conditioning system, the water heating systems, and counting then the actual consumption, and also developed together, so the engineers which we had hired together with the facility managers of the buildings to calculate the reduction potential if you would replace, for example, normal light bulbs with LEDs, or if you change the air conditioning system or the water heating system. And this was what we did. So really, I think what I would like to highlight is that it was really a mixture of capacity building and building assessment. And the MRV requirements, this is a difficult task. Actually, the MRV system we proposed in the two NAMA proposals is not too much developed, and this depends on that the whole MRV systems in both countries are not fully developed yet. And what is very important here in a NAMA is that fits into the overall MRV system and strategy. However, what is also important with if you work together with subnationals and at local level, as I said, there's limited capacity for limited capacity also in time of spending for climate change issues in the local administration. So the systems should be as simple as possible, is what we said, and should build upon existing MRV systems, which, for example, in South Africa, there's already some M&E system existing with the national utility company, and so the MRV system for our NAMA would be based on that.
Very good, thank you very much. And we have quite a few questions already lined up here for answering, so moving quickly to the next one that comes from Sunandan Tiwari. How critical, if at all, is a system-based approach for a successful NAMA?
I would have to ask back what do you understand by the system-based approach to better answer this question. Maybe you could elaborate on that a little further, and we would go on in the list of questions.
Yes, I've unmuted Sunandan, if he can quickly intervene.
Hi, thanks. What I mean by that is that the project itself is focused on one particular sector, but that sector interacts with a number of other sectors, both horizontally and vertically. So how important is it to actually look at that particular sector, whether it's the building or the waste one like that you spoke about, how it fits in within the larger gamut of other systems that it is interacting and influencing?
Okay, perfect. Now I understand. Yeah, of course, the question where are the boundaries and what are the different areas and how interactions between different sectors is an important one in that case. We focus only on certain defined sectors in our two cases, and I think it makes it easier in a vertically integrated NAMA approach. And those sectors are based on, how you say, low emissions development strategies on the national level. So let me give you the example of South Africa again. There is the climate change response strategy, I think with 8, they call it near-term priority flagship programs. They are for adaptation and mitigation, but one of them, for example, is energy efficiency and demand side management. And that covers not only buildings, but everything that has to do with energy efficiency in industry, in whatever areas. And our NAMA is fitted in that. So on the national level, there was already somehow a sectoral approach that we referred to. What I think, and so that's somehow the reason why we focus on one sector. What actually is difficult is if you have on the local level what happens sometimes. A cross-sectoral approach, and then on the national level a sectoral approach, and then it actually becomes a little bit difficult to mix or blend those two approaches with each other. But of course, for the time being, it was also like that. There's other NAMA developments going on and other actions to fill this. In the case of South Africa, this national climate change response strategy with life, but but on the other side, we were also the first ones and somehow could define our boundaries, and others have to react to those ones. That was an advantage we had because we were quite early with our NAMA approach. And it might become difficult the more NAMAs are developed, the more action is actually happening behind to fill this climate change response strategy with action.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move to the next question, and I see that we have several questions from Sunandan. Thank you very much. In any case, now I will now ask a question from Anne Damen, and she indicates. She asks if you can give examples that you can describe in which it was clear that the benefits of engaging in or promoting vertical integration did not outweigh the difficulties.
Well, I think let's say like that in the waste sector, in the building sector, in the transport sector, you are most of the times. I think you at least have to think about how to integrate subnationals, but there might be other sectors like cement industry or give in a country like Philippines with a lot of islands, sea transport or something, ferry boat, NAMA you could imagine about. There's really the question if an additional group of actors which gives opinions and so on helps you really to improve the mitigation impact. So, and I think it's more in this area. So it's it also depends actually who has mandates in a certain area, and is it a national level or is there some mandate on subnational level? As soon as you have mandates on subnational level or mandates on subnational level would be helpful to create more mitigation effects, then one should think about integrating subnationals into the NAMA development.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Tobias. And I would also like to add to that, because I do indeed think this is a key question. So, as you were saying, indeed, the importance of the engagement of subnational and local governments is very relevant, where the current legal framework already assigns to the subnational governments key mandates and key roles related with service delivery. We've seen here the example of the waste sector, of the public buildings sector, and these basically cover the sectors where the local governments can influence either the policy that is being defined and implemented, either, for example, through urban planning, or where the local government has financial control or operational control on the facilities and urban infrastructure, or even other roles such as market roles and so on, related to procurement and even municipal regulations and ordinances and so on. So these are indeed themes where the local governments play a key role for service delivery, and so the effectiveness of any actions, any national actions that target such sectors gain a lot in terms of effectiveness and in terms of their transformative impact if indeed the subnational governments are engaged and brought on board, so that all the different spheres, the different levels of government are pulling in the same direction, their priorities and actions are aligned. So I thank you very much for this question. This was indeed a very relevant topic. Moving to another question, very quickly, as time is quickly going by. Now a question from Ashanapuri Hertz, and I apologize if I did not pronounce it correctly. But so the question is, how is the involvement of local governments in the search of funding for the implementation?
Yeah, to give an example from our two cases, as I said, search for funding is one of our activities which we are doing, and how are we doing that in the project? There's a lot of international and my answer, by the way, might also answer questions from Ali Yassir, which come just a little bit lower in the queue. There's actually many international events happening all over the globe. Sometimes they are sectoral, focus on building, sometimes on waste, sometimes on regions like Asia, sometimes globally. And there's many forums where actually people or teams, stakeholders which have developed a NAMA can match with organizations which could provide funding. And what we did in our 2 case studies was a lot of times to send people from the local governments as well to those kind of events, to present our NAMA, to get into contact with those people, and so this is a way of because they can really report and also from the ground and from the issues and the potentials on the local level, and help and assist and support the search for funding for the implementation. I think this is a very important thing. And then, of course, in a total different area, it's as I said in the presentation, there's a lot of times national funds available, but there's a lot of barriers for the subnationals to access those funds, and so this is very important that the local governments and national governments meet each other and can talk about those barriers and find together a solution to solve those problems. And I would also summarize that under how could local governments be involved in the search for funding for the implementation.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, many funding programs are most, I would say, are directed towards the national governments, and so it's important to really seek this alignment and cooperation to enable local governments also to have access to funding for implementation of actions. Thank you very much. So I'm flagging this as answered. And now another question from Sunandan. What has been your experience in assessing the bankability of the proposed projects?
Well, let me refer to the South African case. We submitted it to the NAMA facility, which is, I think, in fact, in reality, the biggest assessor of bankability at the moment, because it's there's a call for proposals for NAMA support projects once a year, and for example, last year there were 50 projects submitted to the NAMA facility, and then they have a limited amount of money to spend, and it was given to 4 projects in different countries, not to ours, but as we know, we were quite high ranked with our project, so I think a certain degree of bankability is given in that case, and I think the experience of bankability is really get together with funding organizations and get together with them as soon as possible, and to propose them already sketches or whatever, or the drafts of your NAMA proposal, and see how they react and where they see the need for improvement. And that is, I think, the way of assessing the bankability at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Still another question from Sunandan. What has been your experience in involving and engaging with the private sector?
So in South Africa, well, the main objective is actually to establish a ESCO market, and you see it's a challenging task. So for energy service companies which would invest into the building's energy efficiency, and then the benefits of the reduced energy consumption then is shared between the owner of the building and the energy service company. That is how the system works. And there, we have very good experience. We work closely together with them. In the waste sector, is a bit more difficult in Indonesia, because you have waste is always something you have to pay for. It's not self-sustaining waste management systems. And what we have there is nevertheless, we started a cooperation with Unilever, a multinational company, big company, which is interested in one concept we found in one of our pilot cities, is a waste bank, where people can bring recyclables to a bank, and it acts as a bank and pay their utility bills, for example, with empty bottles or plastic bags or whatever. And this runs very successful in the city of Malang, and Unilever on one side, because they are the producers of a lot of those waste packages and things, because they produce consumer products, but on the other side are also very interested in the recyclables and need them, are interested in replicating this approach and this waste bank in other cities in Indonesia. But the discussions actually are still going on, but it's so there's quite positive experience with the private sector, but it's also still it's another set of stakeholders and adds complexity to the whole development process.
Thank you very much, Tobias, and for those good examples. And moving quickly to another question, I don't know if you'll be able to answer, but if not, I've also noticed that we have colleagues online from financing institutions and development banks, for example, multilateral organizations. I see a participant from the World Bank, perhaps someone from the participants may also want to join, and if so, just please raise your hand. The question is from Etikana. Who funds the preparation and analysis phases / implementation?
So in this case, the analysis phase, so the development of the NAMA proposal, was funded by the German Ministry of Environment and implemented by GIZ. For the implementation, actually, so I mentioned already the NAMA facility, but the Green Climate Fund will also be set up this year as one of the organizations which could finance NAMA implementation, or it's other kinds of development banks or national governments from developed countries which want to invest into this in such a NAMA implementation.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I understood the question correctly. I wasn't sure if it referred to the VNAMA project particularly or to initial studies for the development of NAMA in general, but I don't see, apologies, I don't see any hands raised to further make comments on this. I have to say that we still have a couple of unanswered questions. In any case, we are running out of time, so I would propose that we address these additional questions and comments through email. Would that be okay, Tobias, from your side?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to answer in my email.
Okay, very good. So to assure the participants that the contact has been made, including some comments here, for example, from Ali Yazir. So please be assured that we'll follow up by email. So as we are running out of time, it is now time to a quick recap on a few of the key messages that have been discussed. Thank you very much to Tobias, of course, for these presentations and also for addressing the questions that have been made. As key messages, highlight perhaps quickly the message to national, subnational and local governments that to enhance vertical integration in NAMA, it's important to engage, motivate and enable to enhance the effective implementation of climate change mitigation and policies and enhance the delivery of mitigation results and other sustainable development results. As a second key message, to highlight that indeed vertical integration is particularly relevant to increase the effectiveness of NAMA in sectors where local governments indeed have a key mandate or role already assigned through the existing legal framework. and service delivery system. So two key messages to take home. Of course, we invite all the participants to continue to exchange with us through email, and we hope we find you in future events and workshops that promote vertical integration on climate mitigation policies. Tobias, any last comments that you would like to make?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, this was, as Anna also mentioned in the beginning, was the last webinar of our series of webinars, which you can find on the link provided. So if you want to go into details about certain aspects that could not have been answered today, you might find answers there. And well, as I said, the project on VNAMAs will end by the end of April, but I'm sure that, or I know that the GIZ's activity in the field of vertically integrated NAMAs will not end by that date. And so I'm very sure that on the next climate events and publications, you will always see again the term VNAMAs and vertically integrated NAMAs, because it's, as we learned and said, a very important step on the way to reach somehow the 2-degree target. And yeah, so I'm very happy also about the large number of participants and the very interesting questions, and liked very much the discussion. And yeah, I hope we meet in future also, not only virtually but real, and can discuss further. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you very much, Tobias, and also thank you to GIZ for this fruitful cooperation, and thank you to all the participants. From our side, ICLEI is also, of course, going to continue to work on vertical integration to promote cooperation and to contribute to raise the level of ambition towards the delivery of mitigation actions. So thank you very much to both our speaker, the technical staff that supported, and to our participants. A good day to all of you, and goodbye. We hope to see you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.